This judge wanted to get frisky with this lady, except she didn't recognize her as someone that she presided over in court. She scammed the bank she worked at for years and they found out. So she tried to just burn everything down. And this cop was caught doing an OF video in his department-issued uniform. Let's find out some more of the craziest decisions that people made that we covered in 2024 in this marathon video. Who are making some of the worst decisions around? Let's find out. Starting with number 6, no taking back. Megan Gaither, a former high school teacher and cheerleading coach from St. Clair High School, Missouri, found her world turned upside down after her involvement with the adult website OnlyFans was discovered. Although the platform provided her with significant financial gains, the repercussions of her decision have been severe and far-reaching. Gaither's story is a mess of financial success and personal struggle. Once a dedicated educator, Gaither transitioned to creating content on OnlyFans, an adult website known for its direct-to-consumer model. The financial benefits were undeniable. She earned approximately 5 times her teaching salary, around $22,000 monthly. However, the fallout from her decision has been relentless. Gaither was put on leave from her teaching position after the school district discovered her OnlyFans account. This happened shortly after another teacher from the same school, Brianna Coppage, made headlines for similar reasons. Gaither's side hustle was discovered when rumors began to circulate that she had appeared with her face hidden in a video on Coppage's account. These rumors led to further investigation by the school district, ultimately resulting in Gaither being put on leave and her OnlyFans account being discovered. Despite being reasonably discreet, rumors and subsequent confirmations led to Gaither being barred from her classroom. Feeling the sting of ostracization, she reflected on the harsh reality of her situation, explaining that while the money was good, the social and professional costs were far more than she expected. Both Gaither and Coppage received significant online criticism, ranging from personal attacks on their appearance to judgments about their roles as parents. Gaither, who misses her teaching career dearly, admitted that she wouldn't recommend others to follow her path despite the financial allure. The emotional toll was evident as she spoke about the relentless criticism and loss of her career despite her initial precautions and considerations before joining OnlyFans. The decision to join the platform also strained Gaither's relationships with friends and family. Despite this, she continued creating content because if you're going to lose everything, money certainly helps soften the blow, right? Gaither's husband supported her decision, understanding the potential consequences, but both questioned the necessity and morality of the person who reported her. However, Brianna Coppage managed to leverage her earnings to pay off debts and invest in property, but she too faced moral scrutiny and significant lifestyle changes. Despite the financial windfall, Coppage accepted that her teaching career was likely over. Megan Gaither now looks towards the future, using her OnlyFans earnings to pursue a doctoral degree with hopes of teaching at the college level. She advises potential content creators to seriously consider any unintended consequences and the need to be prepared for the reality of societal backlash and professional limitations. We here at Pablito's Way don't sit around and judge other people's career choices, especially when those choices don't hurt or take advantage of anyone. Gaither doesn't seem like a stupid person, and her taking advantage of an extremely lucrative platform isn't a dumb decision either. However, with all the controversies between teachers and students these days, it doesn't seem like a good idea to join an adult-oriented platform and expect to keep your teaching job. Do you disagree with the school board's decision to relieve both teachers of their positions? Number 5, poor judgment. A New York judge has stepped down from a child custody case after a mother claimed the judge contacted her on an adult-themed app designed for couples to meet up. You can figure out for what. The judge in question, Cynthia Lopez, allegedly reached out to Sydney Sutherland through the 3Fun app, which was designed for free singles. According to Sutherland, she received a message on 3Fun from someone named Cynthia, who asked how she was doing. The profile featured photos of a woman in a skimpy dress and heels, claiming to be a part of a couple looking for fun with other couples. Sutherland immediately recognized the woman in the photos as Judge Lopez, who had overseen her child custody case multiple times. Sutherland said she was stunned to come across the profile, which described the woman as Bill and in a partnership with a man known as Ant. The profile elaborated on their preferences, explaining that they were a full swap couple looking for fun with other couples and single ladies. Sutherland responded to the message by saying, "You know who I am?" before being swiftly blocked. The The incident took place in New York, where Judge Lopez served in the Bronx Family Court. Sutherland had first encountered Lopez in the courtroom in February of 2022 and had seen her several times virtually and in person since then. Sutherland's children, Sania, now 9, and Saint, 4, were taken by the city's Administration for Children's Services in February of 2022. The removal occurred after police stormed Sutherland's mother's Bronx apartment in July of 2021 and arrested Sutherland. She later filed a lawsuit against the police, claiming they showed no cause for the arrest. Over the years, Sutherland had several legal issues, pleading guilty to assault 3 times between 2015 and 2017. She was given mental health counseling or probation in each case. Sutherland's complaint about Judge Lopez was referred by the Administration for Children's Services to the Office of Court Administration, which began reviewing the matter. Judge Lopez recused herself from the case in a brief virtual teleconference with Sutherland's lawyers. Judge Lopez, a member of several judicial associations and committees, will be replaced in the custody case. And again, other people's lifestyles are their choice, so we're not here to comment on that. But if you do engage in risky behavior, like seeking out couples on an app for some adult time, you should probably be a bit more cautious of who you reach out to, right? Like, she presides in the community she's looking for fun in, you know? Double check that. Number 4. Just one drink, sir. Justin Timberlake, a former Mouseketeer that was apparently in some singing group or something, was arrested for driving while intoxicated in the Hamptons. The incident occurred after a night out with friends, leading to his brief stay in custody. Timberlake, 43, was driving a BMW when he was pulled over by the police after a night out with some friends. The officer noticed signs of intoxication, leading to Timberlake's arrest. At a concert in Chicago, Timberlake talked about the arrest, acknowledging the difficult week he had. He thanked his fans for their continued support and expressed regret over the situation. Timberlake's tour, which includes stops in major cities like New York and Boston, resumed shortly after the arrest. Reports revealed that Timberlake had had 1 drink at the hotel before his arrest. A bartender confirmed this, explaining that Timberlake didn't appear to be intoxicated, something a bartender would have to say or they could be held liable, so take that with a grain. During the stop, the police officer advised Timberlake not to drive, but he ignored the warning. Timberlake's refusal to take a breathalyzer test resulted in the suspension of his driving privileges in New York. This incident came at a challenging time for Timberlake, whose latest album sales were lower than expected. It seems like Timberlake may be struggling with his public image from the whole Britney Spears thing and a downward career trajectory. Despite whatever reasons he had to drink, he insisted that he only had 1 drink and that the night wasn't as wild as it sounds. Timberlake's arrest sparked a flurry of reactions on social media. Fans and critics alike commented on the situation, with some expressing disappointment and others making light of the incident. Timberlake's reputation, often seen as a golden boy, took a hit as a result of the arrest. Despite the negative publicity, Timberlake remained focused on his tour. He expressed remorse and acknowledged the impact of the incident on his family and fans. Timberlake's wife, Jessica Biel, was seen in public for the first time since the arrest, filming scenes for her upcoming series. As Timberlake continued the tour, he aimed to put the incident behind him and focus on his music. His upcoming performances, including a 2-night stop at Madison Square Garden, were anticipated by fans who continued to support him despite the controversy. Really, when you're that rich and famous, there never really is an excuse to drive drunk. Well, there's never an excuse to drive drunk anyway, but even more so if you're living your life in the public eye and you have more money than you'll ever need. Even if it's true that JT had 1 drink, which it sounds like he did, there's just too much for him to lose if he gets caught. Simply arranging for an Uber would have saved him a lot of trouble, even if he was being responsible. Number 3. Burying troubles. Margaret Frances Maggie Elizabeth Sweeney, a 37-year-old from Franklin, North Carolina, was arrested for allegedly faking her own passing. Apparently, Sweeney tricked her friends, family, and local authorities into believing she was the tragic victim of a crime. One Friday in June of 2024, a worried friend called the Franklin Police Department convinced Sweeney's life had been taken or that she was in grave danger. However, the next day, Sweeney was found safe in a neighboring town and was then arrested 2 days later. Sergeant Randy discovered that Sweeney herself had made an anonymous tip to a friend in the Department of Social Services, falsely reporting her own passing. The hoax led to extensive search efforts and investigations by multiple police departments, wasting valuable resources. The Franklin Police Department was pretty irritated with her, explaining that Sweeney's actions diverted their attention from actual crimes and caused unnecessary worry among her loved ones and the community, resulting in multiple charges. Sweeney's motives for her hoax are unclear clear. In a comment on the police department's Facebook update about her case, she lashed out at social media users, saying that people often feel entitled to know all about private matters and ridicule those who don't share information, which is kind of a ridiculous attitude, since she stirred up all that controversy to begin with. If she wanted to disappear, she could have just started driving and not stopped, you know? Reporting that her life was taken was sure to trigger an investigation, so there was never any way she was going to disappear like that. It sounds like a big attention thing, doesn't it? Number 2, bear season, bro. A fitness enthusiast and online trader known as Crypto Baddie faced a night behind bars after being caught selling a boatload of illegal substances to a Christmas party bus. Sounds like there were a lot of good decisions going on that night. Tristan Allen, a 19-year-old from Australia, drove his Audi to a festive vehicle near a popular pub and made a deal with some partygoers. Unmarked officers then intercepted him. A search revealed that Allen, a CrossFit champion, possessed all sorts of contraband and $95 in cash. Judge Joy Boulos described Allen as a clean skin with no prior offenses, but criticized his behavior. She expressed concern about the risks associated with contraband distribution and pointed out that Allen's actions contradicted his healthy lifestyle. She also warned him of the potential for jail time and talked about the danger of selling these sorts of things, especially since it's common for extra spice to be added without users knowing. The Sutherland local court learned that Allen, also a cryptocurrency trader, was set to compete in the CrossFit Games semifinals in Brisbane. Court documents revealed that Allen had collected electronic transfers and cash from friends to purchase the contraband he was going to resell. He told police he had earned $100,000 from cryptocurrency trading, but lost about $75,000 by the end of 2020. Life is hard sometimes, right? Allen faced charges of prohibited substance supply, possession, and dealing with crime proceeds. He received a 15-month intensive corrections order for the substance supply and pleaded guilty to all charges. Additionally, he was fined another $900 for other substances he was supplying, and he must complete 400 hours of community service and a 12-month community corrections order. With the amount he was supposedly making from his crypto trading, even losing the amount he claimed to have lost, it still doesn't seem like he needed to be slinging. Why risk jail time for money he didn't need? Sounds like someone wanted to seem like they had some legit street cred. What are a few of the dumbest crimes people will actually do? Was it because they were desperate or they were just that dumb? Let's find out. Starting with number 6. Bachelor star gets busted for dealing. Marjorie Griffiths, a former contestant on the Australian version of The Bachelor, has been charged with being involved in an international money laundering syndicate that dealt illegal substances. She appeared on the 10th season of the reality series, paired with a 35-year-old restaurant manager, Thomas Malucelli. She was in the show for 12 weeks. Days before her arrest, she was having the time of her life, partying with her best friend, Molly Rosewarm. On her TikTok page, she posted videos of them at festivals and the beach. Then, hours later, she was in cuffs. What a fall from grace. Griffiths had supplied over 2 pounds of nose beers to an undercover police operative and another 2 pounds to an unknown client. But during her bail hearing, her defense attorney argued that Griffiths had merely been a courier, unaware of the contents of the packages she had allegedly delivered. Her lawyer tried to convince the judge that Griffiths was a mere pawn in the hands of a larger criminal network. The prosecutors lacked substantial evidence to refute this claim. At the time of the hearing, they also didn't have the testimony from the undercover agent who had allegedly received a package of nose beers from Griffiths. There was also no forensic evidence tying her to the cash, illegal substances, and other items the police had seized from her house raid. Which is weird, since literally that having all that stuff in her house wasn't enough to tie it to her. In the end, the former reality TV star was granted bail under strict conditions including electronic monitoring, curfews, and complete sobriety. She was also forbidden from possessing devices that connect to the internet and allowed to keep only one phone. Griffiths was released into the custody of her parents, which of course is embarrassing since she was 26 at the time, and to top it off, she was prohibited from contacting her best friend Molly, who had also been arrested during the raid and charged with possession. That Molly, we always knew she was a bad influence. The dumb thing is Griffiths is obviously an attractive woman who did attain some level of fame that could very easily be leveraged into something more lucrative lucrative and way less illegal. The easy way is almost never the better way. Number 5. The TMI ransom note. Michael Harrell walked into the U.S. bank in Cleveland and handed the teller a note demanding money, which seems like a pretty average tactic as far as bank robbery notes are concerned. You hand the note to the teller quietly and they give you the money. Then you walk out the front door all cool, right? That's what Michael Harrell thought too when he handed his robbery note to the teller. But the problem with his note was that it had all of his information written on the other side. To be a thief, especially an exceptional thief like Hans Gruber, there's a certain level of cautiousness and common sense you have to possess. Harrell lacked both of these qualities. The 54-year-old walked into the bank wearing a baseball cap and making minimal effort to disguise himself. He handed a note to the bank teller that said, "This is a robbery. Don't get nobody hurt." On the other side of the note was his name and address. He got the paper, which was a receipt or something, from the DMV earlier that day. Maybe it was the only piece of paper he had with him. Maybe he hadn't looked to the other side and had quickly scribbled down his demands. Nobody knows for sure. But the teller read the note, saw the details, and probably went from being a little scared to being annoyed. So she handed him a whopping $206, and after he left, she called the police. The teller told the police that Harrell was a regular customer at the bank and that she had even called him by his name when handing over the money, which means he would have been caught even if he hadn't made the silly mistake. After the phone call from the teller, the police casually drove over to Harrell's house and arrested him. It was probably the easiest task they had to do that day. We guess the lesson here is, well, there's so many lessons. First, just don't rob banks. If you do, don't rob banks you go to all the time. If you hand a note, just use a new piece of paper instead of whatever you have in your car. Maybe plan it a little bit so you don't just instantly get caught. If you're going to risk jail time, at least get more than a couple $100. Just literally do the opposite of what Harold did. Number 4, short-sighted views. Long Fee Pham and 2 others have been arrested for their involvement in a high-stakes sports gambling scheme with banned-for-life NBA player Toronto Raptor Jonte Porter. At the beginning of the year, Porter had incurred some gambling debts and was encouraged by some people with an apparent interest to pay off those debts by manipulating games so that certain bets would hit. So basically, he was throwing games. Before each game, Porter would tell Pham, who was a friend but also served more as a bookie, of his planned underperformance. Pham would take that info and go place some bets. Such as one time, before a game versus the LA Clippers, Porter told Pham that he was going to take himself out of the game early, and he did. Porter played for only 4 minutes with 0 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist before leaving with a supposed eye injury. On the other end, a co-conspirator cashed in on a $10,000 wager he had placed on Porter's minimal play. Before another game, Porter told his fellow conspirators that he would say he was sick to leave the game early. They placed their bet, and this earned Pham and the others over $1 million in profits. An investigation revealed that Porter placed at least 13 bets on NBA games, ranging from $15 to $22,000 using someone else's account. Not only was he limiting his performances for betting purposes, he was also disclosing confidential information to these co-conspirators. As a result, Porter was banned for life from the NBA. Porter's plan to pay his debts was extremely dumb for a couple of reasons. One, sportsbooks track betting patterns to find irregularities and flag extremely unusual bets, so the weird bets were bound to get flagged. 2, Porter at least had the potential to make much more legitimate money from the NBA than any amount he would have ever won from gambling. Say what you want about Pete Rose, at least he never bet against his own team. Number 3, the Pringles prank. Ohio lawyer Jack Allen Blakeslee was suspended for 1 year by the Ohio Supreme Court for tossing a poo-filled Pringles can into the parking lot of a victims advocacy center. A victims advocacy center is exactly what it sounds like, a place that provides support, counseling, and legal assistance to individuals affected by crime. So it makes sense that he'd be flinging that smelly stuff like a naughty monkey, right? The incident went down in November of 2021, the date of a pretrial hearing for a criminal case in which Blakeslee was the defense attorney. The executive director of the Victims Advocacy Center, Haven of Hope, had been attending hearings of this case, which is likely the why behind the act. On this particular day, the unnamed director was on her way to the pretrial hearing when she saw Blakesley throw the loaded Pringles can. Blakesley pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of disorderly conduct and littering and was fined $248. In the ethics case that followed, he admitted that his action was a disgrace to his profession. However, he also claimed that it was only a stupid random prank. We don't think there was anything random about this. And guess what? The Ohio Supreme Court didn't buy his story either. As if the case wasn't embarrassing enough, Blakesley tried to prove the randomness of his prank by telling the court that he had done this at least 10 other times at other supposedly random locations, which is the worst possible defense he could have come up with. What on earth would that prove other than he's guilty of more crimes? Further, Blakesley had known the victim's advocate for 20 years and had driven 20 minutes to toss the can of poop outside Haven of Hope, so there was definitely some intentionality behind the act. But it troubled the court that Blakesley had no substantial reason for doing this. Apparently, he had just done it. He said he harbored no animosity towards the victim's advocate or her colleagues, and neither was he trying to intimidate or threaten them. Blakesley allegedly expressed genuine remorse and promised to stop the inappropriate behavior. And even though he admitted to dealing with PTSD after his service in Vietnam, he didn't use it as an excuse for his behavior, because that would have made no sense. Just, flinging poo in a Pringles can, like you do. What about the smell in his car, though? That dude drove at least 20 minutes one time with a Pringles can filled with if you got in his car with him, you know that smell had to have been wafting in the air. We have a lot more questions. Pringles. Number 2, getaway Uber driver. Jason Christmas took an Uber to rob a Huntington bank in Southfield, Michigan, and asked the driver to wait for him till he was done with the operation. In movies such as Ocean's 11, Inside Man, the robbers had these super cool, elaborate plans for their heists. And despite what Rick and Morty would have you believe, we still like the getting the old crew back together scenes. They're fun. In another heist film, Baby Driver, a baby was hired to be a getaway driver or something. We don't know. We haven't seen the movie, but that sounds right. Anyway, the point is, everyone knows that you have to have a good getaway driver or your plan will never work. However, Jason Christmas decided to just take the easy and convenient way out and that made the police's job that much easier. Christmas ordered an Uber to take him to Huntington Bank, where he asked the driver to wait. So the driver did, until Christmas came back out and hopped in the back seat, having no idea his passenger had just robbed the bank. So the getaway Uber driver dropped Christmas off back at his apartment and went on his way. Through the surveillance video from the bank, the police could see the Uber's plate number and tracked him down, finding him not too far from Christmas's apartment. The police then got a hold of Christmas's information and headed over to the apartment within hours of the robbery. Whenever you order an Uber, your identity is shared with the driver, and that driver can share it with law enforcement. So Christmas made it super easy for the police to find him, which they did, at his home, totally covered in red dye from the dye packs the bank had put in with the money they had handed over to him. So his hands, clothes, and even where he had sat in the Uber were stained red. He couldn't hide even if he tried. Also, for funsies, apparently Christmas got the Uber because he didn't want to drive on a suspended license. Figure that one out. The police suspected that Christmas probably committed the crime out of desperation to get gifts for his family because, well, at that time, Christmas was approaching. We do have to say that it's a bit ironic. Christmas was ultimately charged with bank robbery and was held on a $500,000 bond. Christmas was in such dire straits financially that he felt that robbing a bank was his only option, which must have been a terrible feeling. At least Christmas was covered in red during Christmas, so he was festive while being caught red-handed. Okay, we're done. What are some of the dumbest decisions people will make because their brains just shut down? Let's find out, starting with number 6, whiskey business. Mary Kate Wickalanis, a 23-year-old model and sales executive for the Tennessee Titans, earned herself some pretty hefty consequences after a night out after she was involved in an altercation with a security guard. Apparently, she was at Whiskey Row, a popular bar in Nashville, Tennessee, named after the area's historic association with whiskey production and its various whiskey-themed establishments. When police arrived at the bar, they found Mary Kate on the ground, detained by security. Officers noted that she seemed impaired and smelled of alcohol. According to the security guard, Noah Williams, Mary Kate tried to sneak her boyfriend into the bar since he forgot his ID, leading to a confrontation where she aggressively went after him before other security guards subdued her. Why her boyfriend forgot his ID is anyone's guess. Like, dude, you're going out to bars all night and you don't have your ID? Most dudes have one wallet and it goes everywhere. Anyway, at first, Mary-Kate was only going to get a citation, but then she refused to provide fingerprints, which led to her detention. She was booked into the Metro Nashville jail and charged with a bond set at $1,100. In the aftermath, Mary-Kate decided to resign from her dream job with the Titans. She talked about her devastation over the incident, saying that it was out of character for her. Despite her skills and enthusiasm, the altercation ended her 5-month tenure with the team. She's young enough that she'll recover from this and likely find some success, so at least there's that. We've all done a lot of stupid things when we were young, and honestly, if she was hanging out at a place called Whiskey Row, then this sort of thing probably happens every night. Number 5. Officer Naughty. Sean Herman, former Metro Nashville Police Department officer, was fired and arrested for participating in a raunchy OnlyFans video while on duty. The video, titled "Can't Believe He Didn't Arrest Me," featured Herman inappropriately touching a woman during a staged traffic stop. Herman's problems began when he was identified in an OnlyFans video filmed during what appeared to be a routine traffic stop. The video was posted by a popular content creator and quickly gained attention online. Herman's actions in the video, which we're not going to talk about here, were deemed highly inappropriate and unprofessional, especially since Herman was on duty at the time. The video included a brief moment where Herman's police department patch was visible, leading to his identification and subsequent investigation. MNPD Chief John Drake continued the investigation even after Herman was fired, resulting in Herman's indictment for felony official misconduct. He was arrested and his bond was set at $3,000. The incident sparked outrage within the police department and the community. MNPD officials condemned Herman's actions as disrespectful and outrageous, talking about the damage it did to the department's reputation. A Reddit post featuring the video and discussing Herman's firing included a comment from someone claiming to be the creator. She defended Herman, explaining that the video was consensual and filmed off-duty and on private property. However, the official stance from MNPD remained firm, and that he was on duty, leading to Herman's arrest and charges. And whether he was on duty or not, putting on that uniform means Herman was representing his department, so the charges do make sense. Like, if you just happened to see this whole thing going down, you wouldn't know that he wasn't on the job. And the thing is, this sort of stage scene seems like it's becoming more and more common, especially in law enforcement, so there needs to be some real consequences. With skits like this and AI headed the way it is, it's becoming more and more difficult to believe anything you see on a screen. The only way to tell if something is real or not is if it makes total sense, or if you see it in person with your own eyes. We're probably all eventually going to have to unplug to get away from all the fake nonsense, but is that necessarily a bad thing though? Number 4. Court embarrassment. Joseph Ruddy, one of the country's most prolific federal narco prosecutors, was caught trying to use his business card to avoid charges in a hit and run while intoxicated. At the time, his blood alcohol level was over twice the legal limit. Ruddy, 59, was at his home when Tampa police arrived to investigate a crash. Apparently very drunk, he was seen hunched over his pickup truck, waving his business card at the officers as they approached. So the officer was like, "What are you trying to hand me?" and warned Ruddy about how it was going to look on his body camera. The body cam footage in fact showed Ruddy admitting he fled the scene. The officer was like, "Look, you hit a vehicle and you ran. You ran because you're drunk. You probably didn't even realize you were in an accident." To which Ruddy was like, "Yeah." When asked why he didn't stop, Ruddy explained that he didn't realize it was serious. Ruddy was charged with driving under the influence with property damage, but not with leaving the scene. Apparently, he had sideswiped an SUV, clipping a side mirror and tearing off a piece of the vehicle, which was found lodged in his truck's fender. A witness had reported that Ruddy didn't brake when he crashed, explaining that he crashed his car into another car and just kept going, and he was swerving all the way up the road. So the witness said that they just followed him until they got the plate number and reported it. Ruddy still represented the United States in court literally days after the incident to help with a plea deal involving a Brazilian man caught with over 3.3 tons of nose beers off the coast of Guinea. The Justice Department confirmed, however, that Ruddy had been pulled off 3 other pending criminal cases, charges and removed from his supervisory role at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Tampa. Ruddy is known for co-creating Operation Panama Express, known as PanX, a task force targeting smuggling by sea. Over 90% of U.S. Coast Guard interdictions at sea are attributed to PanX intelligence. Between 2018 and 2022, Ruddy and his colleagues handled cases involving 888 tons of contraband and the detention of 2,776 smugglers. It's bad enough that this dude was already driving drunk, but for him to try and exploit his position like literally every other person who's in a position of authority and gets in trouble is frustrating and hypocritical. Driving drunk is clearly dangerous, and he's lucky no one got hurt. So, okay, just admit that you made a pretty serious error in judgment and accept your consequences, you know? Just like you expect everyone else to do. We're so tired of the special treatment these people think they deserve when they hold everyone else to different standards. Number 3, drunker than you think. A Colorado lawyer, Denise K., faced serious consequences after 3 DUI arrests in just 18 months. She agreed to plead guilty to all charges and was sentenced in Arapahoe County Court. But when K. showed up for her sentencing, the judge suspected she might be under the influence and ordered a breath test. The test revealed a breath alcohol content of 0.324, 4 times the legal limit. As a result, K. was held in contempt of court and spent 3 days in county jail. K., who had no prior criminal record in Colorado until 2022, first ran into trouble when she backed into a parked car. Her blood alcohol level was 0.298, more than 3 times the legal limit. She was sentenced to 12 months probation and required to use an interlock device, which is basically a breathalyzer used to start her car. And despite these measures, Kay continued to drive under the influence. In August of 2023, she was stopped by police for a suspected DUI and then backed her car into a police cruiser. At the time, she was driving a car without an interlock device. She pleaded guilty to DUI, but the charge of evading the interlock device was somehow dismissed. Then, a few weeks later, police found Kay had driven her car onto a pile of landscape rocks at a grocery store. Her blood alcohol level was 0.297, and she was charged with DUI again. Why she got so many chances, we'll never guess. Kay expressed her regret and embarrassment over her actions, which probably felt a bit flat since she did it so many times, and acknowledged that her drinking problem knows no boundaries. As of the release of this video, she's serving jail time with the work release, and she's grateful she hadn't hurt anyone. Rebecca Green, Colorado's executive director of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, known as MAD, pointed out that traditional deterrents such as jail time, probation, and interlock devices might not always be effective. She discussed the potential of new technology called the Driver Alcohol Detection System for Safety, known as DADS. This system, developed by the auto industry and the federal government, detects alcohol in a driver's system through their breath and touch, preventing the vehicle from moving if the driver is over the legal limit. Green believes DADS could be as revolutionary as seatbelts, potentially saving lives by keeping impaired drivers off the road. And we're not opposed to it, since drunk driving has touched pretty much everyone's life in some way, right? It would seem like it would have about the same loopholes an interlock device has, but at least it's something. The fact that Kay actively circumvented her interlock device multiple times means she should probably have her license pulled permanently. There's literally no excuse to drive drunk these days. Number 2, the stealing bookkeeper. Kelly Tweeton from Fargo, North Dakota, was sentenced to 3 years of probation after stealing tens of thousands of dollars from her employer, Dietrich Homes, a home construction and real estate contractor, where she worked as a financial manager. The theft was revealed when the owner noticed discrepancies in the business accounts and began an investigation. Tweeton had been transferring money into her personal bank account and writing fraudulent checks to herself. She made 5 checks totaling over $15,000. Additionally, she made purchases on the company credit card and used the business account to pay off the charges before the owner could see them. On one occasion, she even direct deposited $7,000 into her personal account from her office computer after hours. Despite her attempts to cover her tracks, the company found out about what she was doing and estimated that she stole between $80,000 and $100,000. Investigators later found that in just 4 months, Tweeton had stolen around $42,000 through direct deposits alone. After she was confronted, Tweeten texted the company president, admitted to the theft, and promised to repay the money by the following Monday, because nothing says "I'm sorry" like a text. She pleaded for leniency, explaining that her mind wasn't right, and asked not to be arrested. And of course, that didn't work. So, Tweeten was promptly booked into the Cass County Jail and appeared in court, where her bond was set at $50,000. She was released after paying 10% of the bond and promising to attend future court appearances. While she received a suspended 5-year prison sentence and will serve probation instead, the financial damage and betrayal of trust left a lasting impact on Dietrich Holmes, who's still recovering. And there was no way she wasn't going to get caught, you know? You can't just take that amount of money from a business in that amount of time and think no one was going to notice. Of course they were going to notice, and Tweeten had to know it. Yet, she continued stealing anyway. Number 1. You're smashing my windshield, Smalls. Thomas John Geary, Smalls from The Sandlot, got in some serious legal trouble after a bizarre incident involving his neighbor. In Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Geary was arrested and charged with multiple offenses, including malicious injury to personal property and disorderly conduct. The incident occurred when Geary was seen throwing a 35-pound dumbbell into the windshield of his neighbor's Jeep. He then walked back to his house, only to later approach his neighbor's front door while holding a knife. This unsettling behavior was captured on surveillance footage, which also showed Geary ringing the doorbell with the knife in hand. So the neighbor answered the door and was like, "Really, dude? You shattered my windshield." Geary was then like, "Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry. I'll get you back," while still holding the knife. He did eventually put it down before police arrived and didn't seem to be threatening with it, but still, crazy, right? Despite his apology, the damage was done, and Geary was taken into custody. He was released the next day, but later pleaded guilty to the charges and was ordered to pay $757 in fines. The incident marks a significant fall from grace for Geary, who once starred alongside James Earl Jones in The Sandlot and appeared in other well-known films like Lassie, Black Hawk Down, and Mystic River. His behavior hasn't only brought legal consequences, but also tarnished his public image as an actor from a beloved childhood movie. Geary's lifestyle before this incident seemed relatively low-key, with no reports of extravagant purchases or overly opulent living. He seems like he ended up being just a normalish dude. However, his crazy behavior has now overshadowed his previous successes, leaving everyone to wonder what on earth was going on. At the time of this video, the reasons behind Geary's actions are still unknown. Whatever was going on though, we hope he figures it out. Luckily, no one got hurt, and no real damage was done. Who are the most unlikely criminals? Let's find out, starting with number 6. Don't go faking waterfalls. Tourists flock to Yantai Mountain Waterfall, China's tallest uninterrupted waterfall, until a viral video revealed that it was fake. A hiker posted a video showing that the 1,000-foot tall waterfall gets its water from a pipe built into the rock face. A user going by Fairsvav posted the video on Douyin, a Chinese version of the popular short video platform TikTok, said in the video that he went through a good amount of trouble to see the source of the waterfall, only to find a pipe. Since its posting, the clip received 14 million views on Weibo, the Chinese version of Facebook, and almost 10 million on Douyin. The clip generated so much uproar that local government officials went to the park to investigate the matter. Yantai Falls is located in Yantai Mountain Geopark, a UNESCO global geopark, which is kind of like a national park but overseen by the UN. Millions of visitors head there every year to marvel at the geological formations that date back over 1 billion years. The park made a post on the waterfall's behalf to say it didn't expect to meet everyone this way, especially with its pipe exposed. The park explained that as a seasonal scenery, the park officials couldn't guarantee that it would be as beautiful as it could be when people came to see it, and that it needed a small enhancement during the dry season. Park officials also explained that the water from the pipe was spring water and wasn't damaging the natural landscape. Some people were outraged about the situation, accusing the park of not following the natural order of nature or respecting the tourists. They also accused the park of lying to tourists by calling Yantai the #1 waterfall. However, many social media users were on the park side, saying it was a good way to guarantee that people would see the waterfall in its glory. While people argued about the situation on the internet, apparently that happens a lot, the local government demanded that the park management be a bit more transparent about these enhancements in the future and warn visitors so they don't feel deceived. How do you feel about a waterfall being artificially propped up? Is this sort of like makeup except for a waterfall?
Number 5. Weekend hobby. Ivy Marie Weiss, a Wells Fargo district manager, went to multiple Targets to steal hundreds of dollars worth of stuff you'd buy at Target. Well, she must not be enjoying the deep discounts available on the Target app. Weiss stole a bunch of stuff from a Target in Gainesville, Florida. She loaded her shopping cart with about $170 worth of merch, and when it came time to pay, just headed to a self-checkout register. She scanned a couple of items for about $5 and paid for them with a gift card. Apparently, she thought she could just show the receipt if she were stopped, and that it would fool everyone. But as Weiss left the store with the majority of the items in her cart unpaid for, she was completely unaware that staff were monitoring her on surveillance the entire time. So as she was walking out, a loss prevention officer and a cop detained her. Apparently, it wasn't the first time Weiss was caught shoplifting. Loss prevention officers at multiple Target stores recognized her as a traveling scammer and thief. Weiss was quickly recognized because she had already accumulated 9 previous theft cases at other Target locations in the area, so she was earning a bit of a name for herself. Weiss would typically follow the same pattern. She'd fill her cart with expensive stuff, then scan and pay for a few cheap things to generate a receipt, then she'd leave the store without paying for the rest. Some of the items she stole the most included bedding items and Legos. And those of you who have kids know, we get why she'd steal Legos since they can be expensive. And you might think that Weiss was stealing out of necessity or something since she did it so much. But she actually had a pretty good job as a district senior manager for Wells Fargo. When she was questioned about why she repeatedly shoplifted, Weiss couldn't really give a clear answer. Weiss was released on her own recognizance as she had no prior criminal convictions. But at the time of this video, her case is ongoing. Normally, we'd say that you wouldn't expect a senior bank manager to be running around stealing things, but of course she worked for a bank that already has a pretty bad rep for being shady. Maybe when Wells Fargo finally stopped scamming people, Weiss just had that itch, you know? And that itch needed to be scratched at the home decor department at Target. Okay, this is just our crazy take. Number 4, Temple Diversion. Melanie Temple, who worked at Belmont Baptist Church in Calhoun, Georgia, abused her position to gain access to the church's credit cards, allegedly initiating a 3-year scheme alongside her husband, Chad Temple. The couple was accused of diverting funds intended for church use towards personal expenses, totaling over $200,000. The investigation, triggered by a forensic audit conducted by the church, uncovered a pattern of unauthorized transactions dating back to 2019. It all started with small, infrequent charges, as most of these crimes do, but when the pair realized they were getting away with it, they moved on to much bigger, more frequent purchases. Those charges added up, and between 2019 and 2022, the couple racked up a $212,000 tab. Among the things they bought were a bunch of dog and animal products. They were also dog breeders in their less criminal life, as well as personal stuff from Amazon and other retail stores. Belmont Baptist Church eventually grew suspicious, since their accounts just weren't adding up. So they had a forensic audit done, and when the audit revealed the actual amount of money missing, they called the Calhoun Police Department. Investigators traced the missing money to Melanie, who had also given Chad access to the credit cards as well. The theft shook the church community, who were completely shocked that the Temples, who seemed to be fairly well known, would target their donations. Calhoun police arrested the Temples and charged them for each credit card purchase they made, which ended up being around 300 charges in total. As of this video, the case is still ongoing. Number 3, broke school, rich principal. An elementary school principal and a school receptionist defrauded their school out of $630,000. Principal Michelle Hollingsworth siphoned cash from Annie Leonard Primary School in the UK. The receptionist, Deborah Jones, helped Hollingsworth access the funds, which they used to buy things such as a bunch of designer clothes and accessories. Jones also paid her husband's firm almost $100,000 for fake work at the school. While Hollingsworth helped herself to the school's cash, she told staff members they had to buy their own supplies and denied requests for raises. Hollingsworth also told the school staff that they had no money because they were shortchanged by the local authority. However, she then dropped $2,500 of the broke school's money on 2 oil paintings. When asked about the paintings, she said she bought them for the school. Apparently, she was just going to keep them at her house house because elementary school kids aren't going to really appreciate them, right? She also made 180 visits to boutique stores to spend the school's money on luxury items, probably also for the school. The two women also plundered the school's money on kickback deals, where workers were either paid for overpriced work, made up work, or shared the profit with one or both women. Hollingsworth and Jones were arrested, as well as Hollingworth's husband, Joseph. As a result of their theft, the school was in an even worse financial situation than before and was struggling to rebuild. Jones pleaded guilty to conspiring with Hollingsworth and was convicted of 2 other charges of conspiring to defraud with other workers. A jury ultimately found Hollingsworth guilty of conspiring to defraud and attempting to pervert the course of justice, and her husband was also found guilty. Hollingsworth ended up with 5.5 years in prison, and Jones got 4. Number 2. Senator Ethics. Minnesota State Senator Nicole Mitchell allegedly broke into her stepmother's home to retrieve her late father's ashes. We know what you're thinking. When senators make the news, it's usually something to do with bribery or insider trading, not burglaring their stepmother's house. Apparently, the former Air Force Reserve Lieutenant Colonel claimed she wanted some of her father's things, including his ashes, but her stepmother refused to even communicate with her. Senator Mitchell arrived at the property on April 22nd of 2024 and snuck into the home. Law enforcement received a report of suspicious activity at the residence and headed over to check it out. They found Mitchell in the basement wearing all black clothing and a black hat like a cartoon burglar, which had to be absolutely hilarious to see. She also had a flashlight that she covered with a black sock to control the amount of light it generated. So slick, right? During her arrest, Mitchell said that she only went to the house because her stepmother wouldn't talk to her and that she just wanted some of her dad's things. She admitted to the police that she headed to the property at 1 a.m. to sneak her father's belongings since her stepmother had cut off all communication with her. Officers discovered that Mitchell propped a basement window with a black backpack that contained her driver's license, Minnesota Senate ID card, 2 laptops, a cell phone, and some Tupperware containers. Tupperware in the backpack? Hey, you never know when a garden party might break out and some of that killer potato salad can be brought home. Senator Mitchell was prepared, but one of the laptops brought up her stepmother's name when it was turned on. In response, Mitchell claimed that her stepmother gave her the laptop a long time ago, so why wouldn't she be bringing it to the house when she was breaking in? Of course, the stepmom denied this. A judge released Mitchell after appearing in court under the condition that she make no contact with her stepmother. Then Mitchell took to Facebook to deny the burglary allegations, claiming the reason she was on the property was just to check on a family member. You know, hilariously dressed like your mom's version of a ninja costume. She commented about dealing with watching a loved one suffer from Alzheimer's and the paranoia that came along with it. The Minnesota senator explained that she received information that made her extremely concerned about her stepmother, so she went to check on her. Apparently, while she was inside the home, she startled the close relative and exasperated their paranoia, prompting them to think she was stealing. She ended the post by saying that her hope was to resolve the matter in private. Ha! We bet she wants this matter private. Despite her claims, Mitchell was arrested on a first-degree burglary charge, which carries up to a 20-year prison sentence. As of the release of this video, Mitchell is awaiting further investigation from a Capitol Ethics Committee. Do you believe her explanation? It's really hard to believe that a state senator would be breaking into someone's house, but it's also really hard to explain why she was dressed the way she was and what she had in her bag. You'd think for someone in her position, a position that carries some level of authority, that there'd be 100 other ways she could get in contact with her stepmother and retrieve whatever it was she wanted to retrieve. Number 1. Real life Jackie Brown. Former beauty queen Glennis Zapata allegedly moved $310,000 from the U.S. to Mexico for a cartel. As a pageant winner, you'd think she'd have some other options here, right? Before her alleged cartel involvement, Zapata won Miss Indiana 2011. Following the win, she gave an interview to the Journal and Courier where she spoke about how she wanted to highlight the culture and values of her community. However, the beauty queen turned flight attendant apparently felt that her values and culture included being a mule because she allegedly moved nose beer profits from Chicago from 2019 to 2023. The cartel was run by Oswaldo Espinoza, one of the DEA's most wanted fugitives. The small-scale cartel was known as the Espinoza DTO and targeted regular people like Zapata to help move thousands of kilograms of spicy white and the profits made from it. Espinoza apparently used multiple methods to transport his goods, including semi-trailer trucks and private and commercial planes. He moved the stash and profits from properties in Chicago to southern states and Mexico. The cartel attempted to avoid suspicion by hiding the contraband inside legitimate packaged goods. Zapata was one of 18 suspects arrested in the operation. The DEA also arrested Espinoza, Zapata's bank teller's sister, Elena Zapata, and another bank teller, Georgia Banuelos, who were being used to launder the money. The flight attendant allegedly abused her status as a known crew member to help the traffickers move the cash proceeds from the Midwest to southern states and eventually into Mexico. And things were looking good for the group until 2021, when federal officials seized a private charter plane at the Gary Chicago International Airport. Authorities arrested Zapata after she dropped her son off at school, and she was later released with her sister on a $20,000 bond. The cartel's indictment refers to 8 trafficking operations between 2021 and 2023 and 15 cash transports from 2019 to 2022. At the time of this video, the case is ongoing. It seems like it really wasn't a good idea for Zapata to say her hidden talent in the pageant was being good at smuggling, huh? You'd never expect that sort of thing to come back and bite you.
Who are a few of the actually almost smartest criminals around? They had the right idea, except they got caught. Let's find out. Starting with number 5, valuing experience. Mohammed Ibrahim is a 37-year-old from Egypt, and he made headlines when he married Iris Jones, an 83-year-old British woman, despite their 46-year age gap. Their unconventional relationship captivated the public. Well, maybe captivated isn't the right word, when they tied the knot a few years ago. However, their story took a turn when Iris accused Mohammed of being a selfish money grabber and threw him out of her home. Iris and Mohammed's relationship had initially shocked many when they appeared on television to share their story. Iris had already spent pretty significant amounts of money on Mohammed, who never contributed financially. The couple spent 2 years apart before Mohammed received a visa to move to the UK, but their relationship ultimately deteriorated and everyone was surprised. Like, you'd be totally surprised to hear that relationship didn't work, right? Yeah, us too. We're all shocked. Literally weeks after the breakup, Mohammed began dating Angela Rogers, a 61-year-old mother of 11 whom he met on Facebook. He quickly won her over with some flowers and charming compliments. So as the relationship progressed, Angela, who had been single for 14 years, allowed Mohammed to start staying in her spare room. However, the relationship soon became more intimate, with Angela describing their intimate time together as the best she ever had. So Mohammed ended up moving into Angela's flat, and she spent 5,000 pounds on him during their relationship, covering everything from clothes and shoes to bus fares and meals. Despite his charming demeanor, Mohammed was constantly asking Angela for money, including 800 pounds for his divorce from Iris, which she refused to give. He even proposed to Angela twice, without buying a ring because he's a real romancer, but she declined both times. Yeah, we're wondering how she could have said no too. Angela eventually found out that Mohammed had been messaging another 69-year-old widow behind her back, leading her to confront him. This confrontation ended up revealing a lot more about Mohammed's sneaky behavior. So Angela decided to end the relationship. She blocked his number and demanded he leave her home. Angela later said that she thinks Mohammed was probably using older women to extend his visa. Of course, Mohammed was like, "What?" Then said that Angela was seeking fame by using his name, because he was so famous for marrying someone much older than he was. He then posted videos on social media asking women to leave him alone and accusing others of trying to gain notoriety from his situation. Right. As of this video, Mohammed Ibrahim hasn't been deported. Iris Jones, his former wife, has been actively seeking his deportation, claiming he took 25,000 pounds from her during their relationship. Iris has requested the Home Office to deny his visa renewal and deport him back to Egypt. Mohammed, however, denies these allegations and is reportedly trying to extend his spousal visa to remain in the UK. It's really hard to not see that this guy is clearly scamming these women, but what do you think? Maybe he just likes experienced women, and while that's not exactly everyone's cup of tea, it's possible, we suppose. Let us know what you think in the comments section. Number 4. Altered balances. A woman in China, whose name has been withheld by authorities and instead given the pseudonym Chen Yao, managed to evade authorities for 25 years after pulling off an intricate scheme involving embezzlement and identity fraud. She was finally arrested and charged with corruption and fraud. In the late 90s, Chen worked at a bank in southeastern China and discovered a flaw in the bank system that allowed her to alter account balances. In 1997, she decided to seize the opportunity. After being transferred to a branch with a staff shortage, she snuck into the empty bank on a weekend and manipulated some account figures. She added substantial sums to several accounts, amassing around $600,000. Armed with this newfound wealth, she withdrew significant amounts from various bank branches, totaling approximately $587,000. She then visited a cosmetic clinic to undergo plastic surgery, concealing her identity further. Chen hid a portion of the money at her parents' home and shared the rest with her siblings, depositing the funds into joint bank accounts. When she returned to her parents' home, she revealed where she had hidden the cash and handed over 4 passbooks for her family to access the remaining money whenever they needed to. Her father, obviously not too happy with her stealing a massive amount of money and the risk it puts on the entire family, told the police and advised her to turn herself in. But Chen thought a better idea would be to just run away instead. So she left her hometown and traveled to Shanghai with about $59,000 in her pocket. With the help of a middleman, she got a new ID and settled in a province far from her original home. She eventually made her way to Guangdong, where she started a new life with the name of Zhang. Over the next 25 years, under her new name of Zhang, she became a successful entrepreneur, founding a cleaning supplies company. She also remarried and had a daughter, all while keeping her criminal past a secret from her new family. Her first husband was left in the dark after she ghosted him following the heist. Despite the time that had passed, authorities never stopped searching for her. They used systematic methods and cooperation among various government departments to track her down. She was eventually arrested, and her past deeds came to light. She confessed to her crimes and expressed remorse. Whether or not she was actually sorry is another matter. The internet flipped out with comments about how clever and resourceful the lady was, with some users even praising her for her courage and entrepreneurial spirit. However, her actions also highlighted some pretty serious flaws in the banking system that allowed such a crime to occur in the first place. As of the release of this video, she was due to face charges for corruption, identity fraud, and other related offenses, but no information has been made available. The fact that she got away with this for 25 years is pretty impressive. And what about her dad turning her in almost immediately? You know, he was trying to do the right thing by the family, but that must have been a hard decision. Ultimately, she lost 2 families over some money that wasn't hers. Definitely makes anyone wonder whether or not that was worth it. Number 3, the royal scam. Narinder Sandhu, a 62-year-old con man from the UK, was sentenced to 4 years in prison for defrauding the Royal Mail out of a whopping £77 million. Over a decade, Narinder, the owner of Pack Post International Limited, orchestrated this scheme with his brother, Parmjeet Sandhu, and their associate, James Mooney. The fraud began in 2005, with Parmjeet and Mooney joining in 2008. Narinder, as the owner of Pack Post International Limited, known as PPIL, ran a logistics company that handled large volumes of mail and packages. So basically, they were UPS or FedEx. The scheme involved manipulating spreadsheets to underreport the quantity, weight, and class of mail they sent through the Royal Mail. Sandhu's scheme slipped through the Royal Mail's cracks due to its reliance on a self-declaration system for large customers. So instead of paying the correct amount for the mail they sent, PPIL only paid a fraction of what was owed. An investigation revealed 433 doctored spreadsheets showing PPIL paid only £1.7 million for postal services that should have cost £6 million. This massive underreporting allowed them to pocket the difference and fund their luxurious lifestyles. Narinder's stolen money funded a lavish lifestyle, including a multi-million-pound mansion with a private swimming pool, 5 ensuite bedrooms, and a personal gym. His driveway showcased luxury cars such as a Bentley and a Rolls-Royce, because why only have one when you can have both. Inside, his home featured 6 reception rooms, a cinema with plush leather seats, and a sprawling 1-acre garden. In court, the judge acknowledged their apparent remorse and willingness to make substantial compensation, but he still felt like the scam was a little too calculated and ongoing for the remorse to be genuine. Narender's 4-year sentence means he will serve only half the term before being released on license. Parmjeet and Mooney received suspended sentences, with Parmjeet sentenced to 24 months suspended for 2 years and Mooney to 21 months suspended for 2 years. Additionally, Parmjeet must complete 150 hours of unpaid work. It seems like that little Royal Mail loophole was going to get exploited at some point, since people almost always misbehave when they get the chance. And you can kind of see how normally honest people could fall into that trap little by little. First, slightly underreporting weights, then seeing how far it could be pushed. It's always best to just be honest. Number 2, the All India Pregnant Job. Mangesh Kumar, a hard-working man from Bihar, India, found himself drawn into an elaborate scam that promised easy money. One day, while scrolling through Facebook, he stumbled upon a video from the All India Pregnant Job Service. The offer was simple yet unbelievable: significant money in exchange for getting a woman pregnant. It's weird that this is a scam, since India isn't exactly hurting for an increased population, and there are baby juice banks available. But then again, some guys don't really think with their full capacity, right? Mangesh, who was earning about $180 a month working for a wedding party decoration company, saw this as a golden opportunity. Over the following weeks, he ended up paying over $200 to the scammers. But the scammers kept asking for more, promising a substantial payout and a hotel meetup once he completed various supposed legal and administrative steps. Despite being skeptical at times, Mangesh really believed the scammers. They sent him official-looking documents, including a baby birth agreement, complete with a photo of a man in a police uniform and a signature that oddly resembled Oprah Winfrey's. They even sent photos of women he was supposed to choose from for the job, making this sound a lot less like a service for childless women. Mangesh's trust was deepened by the scammers' sophisticated approach. They provided him with ID cards and even claimed to be Indian Army personnel. They assured him of a substantial payout, 500,000 rupees, which was almost 3 years worth of his wages. But they also demanded payments for court documents, safety deposits, and taxes. As the demands grew, Mangesh's resources dwindled. When he could no longer pay, the scammers threatened him with legal action, claiming his bank account showed a large credit that would attract tax authorities. Terrified, Mangesh switched off his phone for days. The scam operation, as revealed by Deputy Superintendent of Police Kalyan Anand, had conned hundreds of people. The perpetrators, clearly educated and tech-savvy, used social media to trap their victims. Despite the arrests of 8 suspects and the seizure of several devices, the police found it challenging to locate the victims, as most were too ashamed to come forward. Mangesh, having lost only a month's salary, was left in a dire situation, which we know, $200 doesn't sound like a lot of money, but everything is relative. Even for plenty of people in the US who's living paycheck to paycheck, $200 can feel like $2 million. His wife was pretty pissed at him too, and justifiably so, we'd say, and he could no longer send money to his family. The All India Pregnant Job scam wasn't limited to just Mangesh. It was a widespread scheme that ensnared hundreds of men across India, offering them lucrative payouts for impregnating childless women. The promise of easy money and a night with a beautiful woman was a powerful lure, especially for those in desperate financial situations. Scammers posted enticing videos and pictures on Facebook featuring attractive women supposedly in need of help to conceive. These posts included contact details, encouraging men to apply for the fake job. Once hooked, victims were asked to pay registration fees, deposits, and taxes with the promise of substantial rewards. Despite the victims' desperation and the scammers' convincing tactics, the promised meetings and payments never materialized. The victims, ashamed and feeling foolish, often didn't report the crime, so that made it pretty difficult for the police to gauge the full extent of the scam. Deputy Superintendent Kalyan Anand's team in Bihar managed to arrest 8 people involved in the scam, but many more were still at large. The gang had been operating for over a year, using sophisticated methods to manipulate their victims. The arrested individuals were found with multiple mobile phones and other evidence of their activities. Experts noted that the lack of social media awareness among many in India as to what made this scam particularly effective. The victims, often with low levels of education, were easy targets for the more educated and tech-savvy scammers. Authorities talked about the importance of independent verification of online offers and increased efforts to educate the public about such dangers. While the government and private sector could work together to combat such scams, the sheer number number of potential victims posed a significant challenge, which is just another way of saying that they just don't feel like it, right? If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay tuned right here to find out about how she tried her best to get revenge on her boyfriend. Number 1. The Great Gift Card Scam. Ning Ning Sun, a Chinese national, was caught in a sophisticated gift card scam that spanned across California and other regions in the U.S. The Sacramento County Sheriff's Office had conducted a large anti-retail theft operation, resulting in the arrest of 285 people, including Sun, who was found with thousands of Target and Apple gift cards. During the operation, detectives noticed Sun acting suspiciously near the gift cards in a Target store. He was seen taking a large number of gift cards off the rack and hiding them in his jacket. Sun then replaced the missing cards with seemingly identical ones. Detectives followed him outside and made the arrest, uncovering a ton of gift cards in his car. Sun's method involved grabbing legit gift cards and somehow carefully removing the glue covering the barcodes. He would record the pins, reapply glue to the barcodes, and return the cards to the store shelves. Shoppers would purchase these tampered cards, and as they loaded money onto them, the funds would be transferred to an offshore account, likely in China. The sheriff's office described the scam as very sophisticated and said it had national and international implications. The investigation revealed that the operation wasn't limited to California, but had affected various regions across the United States. The scam was also difficult to detect since the tampered gift cards appeared almost identical to untampered ones. Sun's arrest was part of a larger operation known as Operation Bad Elf. It took place in December. Don't you love it when the sheriff's department gets cute around the holidays? Which aim to tackle retail theft. The Sacramento County Sheriff's Office has called for public vigilance, urging shoppers to check for any signs of tampering, such as scuff marks or scratches near the barcode when purchasing gift cards. This scam has been particularly clever since victims are often unaware that their money has been stolen. When a tampered gift card is given as a gift, the recipient might not realize that the funds are missing until it's too late, and they are unlikely to report it. So if you're in Northern California, buy gift cards at your own risk and examine them as much as you reasonably can before purchasing. But like the great Mitch Hedberg once said, gift cards are terrible gifts anyway. You take money, that's good everywhere, and you ruin it. We'll just take cash too. Thank you very much. Who are a few of the types of people you would never think to do a crime? Let's find out. Starting with number 6, forced robbery. Ann Mayers, a 74-year-old woman from Hamilton, Ohio, found herself in a desperate situation after losing her life savings to an online scam. So Mayers decided to rob a local credit union to recover her financial losses. She entered the Our Group Credit Union in nearby Fairfield Township, brandishing a firearm and demanding money from a teller. Dressed in a face mask and carrying a blue bag, she was captured on surveillance footage during the heist. After the robbery, Mayers fled in a silver 2014 Hyundai Elantra, which notably lacked a license plate, and clearly thought this all out, so she could cover her tracks. However, police immediately traced the robbery back to Mayers anyway, finding both the car and the firearm involved. When confronted at her home, she admitted to the crime, and police took her into custody. Ann's armed robbery obviously shocked the community, especially given her lack of a prior criminal record and the fact that she's an old lady. The police learned from her family that Mayers had been financially duped by an unidentified scammer, leading to her dramatic decision. Despite some public sympathy for her situation as a scam victim, authorities emphasized the severity of her actions, pointing out that she had planned the robbery meticulously. She had even discussed the idea with family members, who didn't take her seriously at the time. Mayers was charged with robbery and tampering with evidence. As of the release of this video, she's awaiting her court proceedings. The exact amount of money she stole wasn't disclosed. No one really expects a kind elderly lady to be robbing banks. Is this one of those stealing bread is okay to feed your family type situations where no one got hurt and she should probably be let go? Or is the law, and that's just how it is? Don't rob banks no matter your situation. Number 5, unexpected tragedy. On Christmas Eve in Largo, Florida, a family dispute tragically escalated into a situation most people would never imagine happened to their own family. The situation resulted in the passing of Abrielle Baldwin, a mother of two. The incident began during a seemingly innocent shopping trip that turned sour. Abrielle's two teenage brothers, DeMarcus and Darcus Coley, began arguing over who received more Christmas presents. Brothers, am I right? This argument continued at their grandmother's house, where the family was gathering for the holidays. In the heat of the argument, DeMarcus, armed with a firearm, threatened his older brother. Their uncle intervened, separating them and sending DeMarcus outside. Sadly, the confrontation exploded when Abrielle attempted to calm her brothers down. Captured on a neighbor's outdoor camera, Abrielle can be heard pleading, quote, "You all need to leave that stuff alone. Why are you trying to start it? It's Christmas." Ignoring her pleas, DeMarcus shockingly lets a round go, striking Abrielle in the chest. Abrielle was holding her 10-month-old baby, who miraculously wasn't injured. After hearing the shot, Darcus ran outside and moments later fired off towards DeMarcus. Darcus then tossed his weapon in a neighbor's yard and fled to a relative's home in Clearwater, where he was later arrested. Abrielle was rushed to Largo Medical Center, where she succumbed to her injuries. The brothers were both charged for their roles in the crimes. Sheriff Bob Galtieri of Pineda County expressed his frustration, noting that both brothers had previous run-ins with the law. The Pineda Pasco State Attorney's Office considered charging the brothers as adults, given the gravity of the crime. As of the release of the video, no further details have been made available in regards to their trial. Number 4. Shoplifting sprees. Karen Beckett, Anne-Marie Beckett, and Paige Griffin are three moms from the UK who had a little too much time on their hands. They went on a calculated 140-mile crime spree, stealing over $1,600 worth of goods from several stores in Cheshire, UK. Their targets included UK stores such as TK Maxx, which is just TJ Maxx, but everyone sounds really smart, Next, and Home Bargains, which sounds like a knockoff of Home Goods, but it's not. And they managed to haul away the usual items you'd suspect, such as shoes, cosmetics, and clothes. The trio's operation was well thought out. They equipped themselves with foil-lined bags to dodge security systems and mapped out their criminal tour across well-known shopping spots in Cheshire's so-called Golden Triangle, known for its affluent shoppers. Caught on CCTV, their getaway car, a Nissan Rogue Sport, was traced by security personnel who noticed its license plate. Apparently, their plan wasn't that calculated. Anyway, this lead allowed police to arrest the gang of thieving mothers while they were attempting to return to their homes. When stopped, authorities found the stolen goods, still tagged, inside their vehicle. Past records revealed that both Karen and Anne-Marie Beckett were apparently low-down dirty thieves who already had previous theft convictions. In court, the seriousness of their coordinated theft was acknowledged, but the judge opted for leniency, pointing to personal challenges and familial responsibilities. Each woman received a suspended sentence and was mandated to undergo rehabilitation programs. Karen Beckett, with the most extensive criminal history among them, got a 12-week suspended sentence. Anne-Marie received 8 weeks, and Paige Griffin, the youngest and a former beauty salon receptionist, received an 18-week suspended sentence. This decision was shaped by the acknowledgement of their previous issues and the potential impact of incarceration on their families. The court ordered each to pay fines and participate in probation services to steer their lives in a better direction. It's weird that they were robbing discount department stores. It seems like a no-brainer to us to at least steal from a Neiman Marcus or something if someone decides to be about the shoplifting life. And also, take off that license plate if they're going to be using their own car. Number 3. Really bored? Paul Elson, a 64-year-old retired United Nations worker from the UK, was sentenced to 10.5 years in prison for his unexpected role in a trafficking scheme. Despite his previous clean record and modest lifestyle as a golf coach, Elson got tangled in an operation that moved substantial amounts of illegal substances worth nearly $3.3 million on the street into Liverpool. The police uncovered this cash in a waterfront apartment during a raid. Elson's involvement in the criminal world came as a shock given his age and background. His attorney emphasized that there was no evidence Elson had altered his lifestyle with his illicit earnings, nor any clear reason for his late life pivot to crime. Alongside Elson, Stephen Cahill was also implicated. Unlike Elson, Cahill had a long criminal history and received a longer sentence of 13.5 years. Both men were seen transporting cardboard boxes full of illicit substances into the Waterloo warehouse complex on separate occasions just before their arrest. Upon searching a unit for which Elson had keys, authorities found the contraband stored inside. The defense argued that both men faced personal challenges. Cahill with his substance problems and the loss of his job, and Elson from some financial pressures. Elson remarked through his lawyer that he regretted his involvement, which was seemingly limited to logistical support within the operation. Who would expect the average retired guy with no criminal history to pull a Breaking Bad? It's like what they say about the Spanish Inquisition. Number 2. The Scamming Lawyer. Annalisa Kajer, a lawyer originally from the Philippines, found herself in serious trouble after misusing a client's £132,000 divorce settlement. While operating her law firm from Italy, Kajer was expected to transfer this substantial amount to her client, Elena Thompson. Instead, she redirected the funds to cover other clients' payments, clear business debts, support personal expenses, and even settle her tax bill. The misappropriation was revealed when Thompson, having not received her money, reported Kajer to the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, which is basically the UK's version of the Bar Association for Lawyers. The investigation revealed a grim picture of Kajer's company, Able Law, which was compared to the famous deserted ghost ship Mary Celeste, with only about half of the intended funds remaining in the account. The consequences were severe for Kajer. She was struck off the legal register and arrested for fraud after her return to the UK from Italy. The court learned that Kajer had been struggling with significant personal issues, including a bad relationship with her unemployed husband who had a gambling problem. Her defense described her as a woman driven to desperation, trying to support her family under dire circumstances. Despite the turmoil and impact on Thompson, who suffered considerable distress and had to temporarily move in with her daughter, Kajer avoided jail time. Discussing her mental health struggles and personal situation, the judge handed down a 2-year suspended sentence and mandated 100 hours of unpaid work. The legal profession's compensation fund later reimbursed Miss Thompson, so it seems like everything worked out okay in the end. Number 1. Wrong place, wrong time. William Brock, an 81-year-old man from South Charleston, West Virginia, was arrested following an extremely tragic incident stemming from a telephone scam. The situation unfolded when Brock, victimized by a scam involving a supposed incarcerated relative, was led to believe that his family was under threat unless he paid money. The same scammer had contacted 61-year-old Uber driver Loletha Hall, instructing her to collect a package from Brock's residence. But when Hall arrived and asked about the package, Brock, thinking he was being robbed, confronted her while armed. The encounter, captured on Hall's dashcam, escalated quickly. Hall tried to get away, but Brock physically prevented her from escaping and discharged his firearm, hitting her 3 times. Hall, who was unarmed and suffering from medical conditions, didn't pose any threat to Brock. She merely asked about the package as instructed by her Uber app. Despite this, Brock didn't seek help or call 911 until after he had injured Hall. He later claimed to a 911 dispatcher that he had acted in self-defense against an attempted robbery. First responders rushed Hall to Miami Valley Hospital, but she unfortunately didn't make it during surgery. The Clark County Sheriff's Office emphasized that there was no immediate threat from Hall at any time, leading to Brock's arrest. This con is the typical bail bond scam, and it's worth educating any elderly people in your lives about this typical scam to avoid any potential devastating outcomes. Scammers will target an elderly victim claiming that their grandchild has been arrested and needs help, but is too afraid to call their parents. They'll then instruct them to get bail money and give it to someone that'll be sent to their house to collect it. In this case, it was unfortunately Hall, who wasn't a scammer. Sadly, it sounds like Brock fell for the scam or thought that Hall was the scammer. The incident was described by an Uber spokesperson as a horrific tragedy and said their typical corporate condolences to Hall's family and said they were in cooperation with law enforcement in the ongoing investigation. Brock has pleaded not guilty, and the outcome of the trial hangs in the balance as of the release of this video. Authorities have banned the Uber account that set up that fatal encounter, and the investigation into the original call continues. Where are some of the weirdest places people just leave money or valuables either intentionally or by accident? Well, let's find out, starting with number 6, the thriftiest and most valuable couch. Good dude Howard Kirby found $43,000 in a couch he got from a thrift store and returned the money to the owner of the couch. Howard had bought the secondhand couch from Habitat for Humanity, a thrift store, and had planned to use the couch for his man cave. It cost him just $70, and he considered it a good bargain. However, he only knew the true worth of the couch after a few weeks of finding it too uncomfortable to sit on. So, he decided to check what the problem was and unzip the couch's cushions. That's when he found $43,000 in cash inside a box. The money was stacked cleanly and only divided by annotated pieces of paper. Howard talked to a lawyer about it, and the lawyer told him he had every legal right to keep the money. However, Howard just couldn't do it. His conscience wouldn't let him be at peace, and as a religious man, keeping it would be disobeying God. So he did the remarkable thing. He went back to the store and asked them to track down the person who donated the sofa. The person was a woman named Kim Fouth Newberry, whose late grandfather owned the couch. Kim said she had no idea the money was in the couch and had given it out innocently. In fact, the family said that if they hadn't given the couch away, they probably would have burned it. In the end, Howard met Kim at the store and handed over all of the cash. It was an amazing act of kindness. Howard said that he often wondered what he would do if he found a huge amount of money, but now he knows that he has a good conscience and would do the right thing. And while Howard returned the $43,000, he gained something else: the goodwill of his community. After his altruistic act went viral, a GoFundMe page was set up for him that raised over 15,000 Canadian dollars, which is roughly 11,000 US dollars. The Saginaw branch of Ekenhout Building Supplies also donated the materials needed to give his home a needed new roof, and a local contractor volunteered to help install it. The incredible thing is that Howard had recently gone through some tough times of his own. A close cousin had passed away suddenly from cancer the year before, and he had also dodged a tumor of his own when he got a kidney removed at around the same time. It's always nice to hear about people doing the right thing, especially when it's a tough decision like that, especially when he had a fair and legal claim over it. Have you ever found something of incredible value and returned it? Tell us about it in the comments below. Number 5. Craigslist couch. People must love stuffing cash in couches, because Vicky Umadu found some cash as well in a couch she got for free. She got the shock of her life when she found $36,000 in a couch that she had gotten for free. Vicky had just moved into her new home in San Bernardino County and was looking to get some furniture. She went to Craigslist to see if there were some good deals for her, and as she was searching, she saw a section for free items. She scrolled down, clicked on it, and found that a family was giving out a sofa and everything in a bedroom set. At first, she thought it was a gimmick and called the listed number to see if they were for real. It turned out they were. The family explained that a loved one had recently passed away and they were liquidating everything in the property. Vicky was overjoyed because she had just gotten a free couch when she had originally wanted to buy one. When she got home, she started examining the sofa closely and found that there was an unknown item inside one of the cushions. At first, she thought it was a heating pad, but she noticed that the sofa didn't have an electrical cord. Then she checked the item and discovered multiple envelopes packed with dollar bills. She counted $36,000 all told and immediately called the family who gave her the sofa. The family was shocked since they didn't expect their relative to have kept money in his cushions, let alone such a large amount. While they had found a few $100s hidden around the house, they had no idea he even had such an amount of money to hide. As a way of saying thank you to Vicky, the family agreed to pay for a new refrigerator for her and gave her $2,200. What would you have done in Vicky's situation? Number 4. The Unflushables. Workers in Bangladesh cleaning a plane's bathroom got the shock of a lifetime when they discovered 280 gold bars weighing around 32 kilograms and worth an estimated $1.9 million. The plane had flown from Dubai to Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport in Bangladesh, and cleaners were just doing their routine maintenance when they found the loot worth a small fortune. Customs officials say they knew that the gold was on the plane, but suspect that the person carrying it had stashed it there for fear of being caught. This discovery was just one more in a long line of seizures by Bangladesh authorities ever since they started a special crackdown on criminal activity back in 2013. The gold bars were part of a cargo of 9 cases containing 300 kilograms of gold. Obviously, the gold bars were all tied to criminal activity. And the seizures weren't just gold bars, but other illegal things as well, of course. One such seizure was a shipment of pure nose beer worth over $200 million that was being shipped from South America to Paris on an Air France aircraft. The haul was packed into 30 separate suitcases, and they all originated from Venezuela. All of the cases had been registered to passengers who didn't exist and weren't on the flight manifest. So, shady business, right? After the discovery of the haul, 6 members of an international smuggling conglomerate were arrested. Over 3,600 people have now been arrested for their involvement in smuggling. This includes crew members, customs and immigration, and employees of civil aviation. That would have been wild to find that many gold bars in a toilet of all places. And whoever stashed it there and didn't recover it probably isn't with us anymore, if you know what we're saying. Imagine that conversation. You left what? Where? Number 3, the construction dispute. Warren Buggy and Daniel Boyd thought they discovered the find of their lives when they found $500,000 buried on a construction site while working on the Australian Gold Coast. The men immediately handed the money over to the police, and despite their honesty, both men immediately got fired. That's because their boss was also claiming the money under ancient finders keepers laws, which aren't actually a thing that exists outside of a schoolyard, even though he didn't even find it. The 3 men weren't the only ones laying claim to the money either. The landowner and developer claims that his father, Stephen Ma, buried the money to avoid paying taxes. According to court documents, the evidence for this claim is that Peter Chan, Stephen Ma's brother-in-law, claimed that in 1993 he once saw Stephen Ma bundle dollar notes into a black plastic bag. Chan also said that Stephen asked him to keep the bundles of cash at his house, but he refused. Chan explained that Stephen didn't want to deposit the money in the bank because he was avoiding paying taxes on it. So he eventually buried the money in the ground. In his affidavit, he claimed that Stephen's home was filled with Chinese newspapers which were circled and marked in various places in pen for no reason at all. And it turns out the money was found wrapped in Chinese newspapers. The construction company working on the land at the time claimed that the money couldn't have belonged to Stephen Ma because he couldn't have earned that amount of money all those years ago. At the same time, they argue that even if he owned the money, he threw it away and therefore abandoned the cash. The 2 men who found the money also claimed in court through their lawyers that Stephen Ma disclaimed possession of those items removed during excavation. What an odd way to say I want your money and I don't care whether it belongs to you or not. Interestingly, none of the men may end up with the money. If the court rules that none of the parties has a legal claim to the money, all of it would go to the Queensland state government or into general revenue for the federal government of Australia. And oh, look at that! The government is somehow figuring out a way to keep it all for themselves. Finders keepers indeed. Number 2, scattered money. Back in December 2023, police seized thousands of dollars that they found scattered on a freeway in Perth's northern suburbs. That's down under in Australia, by the way. The police believe the cash came from a failed deal for, well, you know. The authorities arrived on the scene right as what they described as a suspicious meeting was ending. This meeting was what supposedly spawned the thousands of dollars that started fluttering around the highway. After gathering all the money, the police say they found a total of $40,000 at the spot of the meeting. The authorities aren't yet completely sure about the source of the money, but they're certain that the criminals involved aren't the smartest of the bunch. There are many ways a criminal deal can be botched, but to be botched in such an incredibly incompetent manner is something you don't often see. The police do have a few leads to follow. When they arrived on the scene, there was a Holden Commodore, basically a Chevy SS that lives in Australia, parked near the road. The driver of that car was arrested, and a further search of the vehicle turned up $8,000 and 51 grams of nose beer. The man has now been charged with possession of a prohibited substance with intent to sell or supply, having no authority to drive, and possession of stolen property. The police are still trying to track down everyone else with the deal, such as the rider of a motorcycle and driver of a tow truck seen in the area before the police arrived. And we're pretty sure we know what happened. They were trying to count the money, but there was just too much of it. Be sure to stay right on this video after our number 1 entry for more of the craziest places cash was found. Number 1. Bundles of joy. Residents of a village in the UK back in 2019 kept discovering bundles of £2,000 left around their village. According to the police, at least 13 such bundles had been dropped around the village over a 10-year period. Those 13 bundles have all been picked up by residents of the village and returned to the police. Yet no one can tell how or why the money was dropped around the village. Even the police have a hard time figuring out the source of the random cash drops. John Forster, a detective constable in the village, says the police have done all they can to understand the source of the money. They've carried out checks with the bank and post office. They've even tested for fingerprints. The police have explored all possibilities, including money laundering schemes, illegal substance schemes, and general criminality. However, all their investigations have revealed nothing about the source of the money. The amazing thing about this case was that the villagers kept on returning the money to the police. £26,000 is a lot of money all told, and the villagers all returned it without expecting anything in return. Incredibly, every cent of that money has been returned to the people who found it. The police policy is to return lost items to the persons who find them after 2 weeks if the original owner doesn't come to claim them. And that's precisely what happened here. After 2 weeks, when no one claims the £2,000 in cash, it's usually returned to the person who found it. At first, the villagers didn't know about the money, but soon the rumors spread and now everyone knows about it. Interestingly, the villagers aren't too surprised that the money was often given back to the police. They say that the community spirit is strong and most people are always looking out for others. The leading theory for the source of the money among the villagers is that it's a gift from some good Samaritan. They say that the money must be from a good Samaritan who's looking to give back to the community in a direct way. What do you think? Do you think these are just random cash gifts to the villagers from a good Samaritan? Or do you think there was something else at play here? And really, these villagers are living out our dream. That dream being to simply find a bunch of money on the ground that we can just have. We have the laziest get-rich-quick scheme ever. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather have. Take $10 million right now, or take $250,000 a year for life.